Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today I want to talk about mana and other mana systems and why they're used in every game ever, and why I forgot to center my mic at the beginning of this video. That's going to be clearly a major portion of this. But yes, today I want to talk about limited resources, specifically mana, and why it works so well, what it does, and what a game would be like without it. So if you enjoy these sort of discussion type videos on the really weird and specific topics, which I hope you do if you're here, because we do that a lot, feel free to leave a like down below and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. But yes, to start off, I want to say what is mana, because it might be confusing if you haven't seen a game with this, but I don't know how you wouldn't have seen a game with this. But in general, by mana or magic power or MP or any sort of thing like that, what I mean by that is a limited sort of resource that allows you to use more powerful abilities, but only a limited number of times without either refilling that gauge or without it refilling itself over time. Now, this does a few things, but first I want to talk about other versions of this because they are relevant here too. A great example of this not being mana is any sort of House of the Dead type game or Time Crisis where you will retrieve a gun that does more damage or has a better spread or does something that you can't normally do. And then of course when you're finished, you're forced to revert back to the simple pistol, which does an okay amount of damage but has nothing special about it. Now, this and mana and what I'm going to talk about in a specific example in a little bit, all of these different things limit your ability to use certain parts of your player's kit, which is very weird to think about because it's essentially telling your player, no, you can't use that as much as you want to. But the question here is, do you really want to use that more? Because if you create a game like this, obviously these limited resources are going to have you do more powerful attacks or more powerful abilities depending on when you get them. Even going to Super Mario 64, the different caps obviously give you a huge power-up, but only for a certain amount of time. And what this does is it gives the player a frame of reference to where they feel more powerful when they're either using these abilities or when they have that power-up, and that makes them feel powerful during those times. And it doesn't necessarily make them feel less powerful outside of those times, but it keeps those moments very exciting. And if you were to either completely remove those things, well, then the player's not going to go up or down at all. They're just going to be very consistent throughout the entire game. And, well, that's sort of boring. These sort of power spikes that you get through mana and through, like bombs in Metroid, for example, they get the player excited about certain windows of opportunity that they have to use these super powerful abilities that might seem overpowered if you were to be able to use them whenever you wanted, but for a limited amount of time to feel super powerful. Now, the issue here is you can't create these abilities within a game without having some sort of balance to them. And that's a really important process to any sort of video game, but especially games where you have certain overpowered abilities that are meant to feel overpowered to make the player feel superpowered, because who doesn't want to feel superpowered? But you have to make sure that you balance these well with the alternative. So, for example, in House of the Dead, the pistol that you start with and that you have with infinite ammo to begin with and throughout the whole game is severely underpowered and can actually feel very boring for a lot of that game. And so I think that one of the games that kind of does that a little bit better than House of the Dead, and again, feel free to argue with me in the comments down below about this because I love these sort of on-rail shooter games, but one of the games that actually does a really good job of this and kind of fixes that problem is the Resident Evil series, but specifically the Umbrella Chronicles. So if you haven't played these games, they are on-rail versions of a lot of the different stories that have gone on in the Resident Evil games, but also kind of side stories. And I'm not sure if they're entirely canon, but they have a similar system where you will have multiple guns that you can switch through pretty easily, but a lot of them have limited ammo. But that also makes it really fun because you have all of these options and you can choose to save them for later, which again could be an issue, but we'll talk about that in a second. And instead of having the pistol that's just always boring, just sometimes you might not have the right gun for the right situation. But at the same time, you always have powerful feeling weapons. It just might not feel powerful, for example, if you're using a shotgun on one opponent, compared to when you use that shotgun on a group of opponents. It still gives you that sense of power spike and that sense of overpoweredness that, again, the game designer has planned for, so isn't in reality super overpowered, but it doesn't completely negate all of that when you are out of ammo like the House of the Dead games do. Now, I want to talk about another game that does this so super well, which I have talked about recently because I've been playing through, and obviously I talk about all the games that I'm playing through right now, but I'm finally playing through Secret of Mana, and the charge system in that is super interesting. If you haven't played the game, a very basic overview is you have a bunch of different weapons that you collect throughout the game, but every single weapon has a recharge timer on it. When you attack, you do a crap ton of damage, but then you have to wait to hit 100% again, which only takes about a second and a half before you can do that full damage again. Now, you can attack in between there, which I really like, because it doesn't completely lock you out of attacking if you want to attack for tactical reasons, like to knock an enemy down, but in between there, you do so little damage that you are very much encouraged to wait until you have 100% to use that attack, because otherwise you'll do, for example, right now I'm doing about 50 damage per hit. Well, you only do about like 4 or 5 on a good attack when you don't have 100%. And that doesn't matter if you're at 99% or at 2%, you will only do that 4 damage. But that makes those big attacks feel so much more significant and so much more satisfying. Now, there's a lot of other things going on here that make that satisfying and fun. I mean, obviously the sound effects, the visual effects, all of that ties into making those big attacks feel good. But this is also where we go into a sort of randomness to combat that can accomplish the same idea. And I'm going to talk a little bit about critical hits now. Now, critical hits are pretty controversial in the World of Warcraft community because people like consistency, and they're incredibly controversial in the League of Legends community because, again, with a competitive game like that, people like consistency. But I don't really think that they do, because the reason that critical hits were introduced in, for example, RPGs back in the day, for the original Baldur's Gate games, the reason critical hits were introduced in those games, of course based on Dungeons & Dragons for the same reason, was to give players a chance that they would suddenly have this huge hit that was really super exciting and, again, felt overpowered and felt like a power spike. Now, obviously, balancing the percentages of these is really important, and the game designers balance that so that even though you had these moments of power spikes, these moments of feeling super overpowered, you weren't going to have so many of them that it broke the game. And again, that's where we come back to balance being super important. But critical hits accomplish the same sort of idea, just with a little bit less on the player front, which, again, makes them not fully as satisfying as, for example, the recharge system in Secret of Mana, where you have that power spike, but you kind of know when it's coming and you know when to use it, and if it goes off at a time you don't want it to, well, that's your fault, not the game's fault. And so I'm not going to say that critical hits are necessarily a great idea in most games, but they do accomplish a very similar aspect to the ammo in House of the Dead games, to the mana in every other game except for apparently Secret of Mana, because your main character doesn't use spells, but I always thought that was weird. Did anybody else think that was weird? Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So the final thing that I want to mention here, that on top of balance, one thing that you want to make sure of, kind of like with the House of the Dead games, is you don't want that basic ability that you're kind of contrasting this overpowered ability with, whether it be a spell using mana or whether it be a bomb from Metroid. You want to make sure that the difference there is great enough to make those big hits feel fun and feel exciting and feel overpowered, but not so much to the point where the base shot or the base ability that you use outside of that is completely useless. Again, I think Secret of Mana does a great job of this because there is a reason to use attacks not at a full 100% for tactical reasons, or to keep one enemy down so that the rest of your party doesn't get stun locked with the spells that they'll cast, which again is a whole nother issue with Secret of Mana. But you also want to make sure that you don't make them too close together, because if you do, you're going to come to the point of what I think a lot of Mega Man games are running into, where, especially Mega Man X, the power shot does a lot of damage and has tactical reasons for charging it up and shooting it at certain enemies so that the second you see them you can shoot it, but it also runs into the issue of not really feeling necessary for the majority of the game. Now, again, that's just my personal opinion on Mega Man. I actually think it does it particularly well, but I think that they could do a better job at balancing those two sorts of things. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the Metroid Prime series, which I don't know how I feel about, because the basic shot from your normal plasma beam, is that what the basic shot? Oh god, I'm just gonna get come for in the people are just gonna come for me in the comments down below. But the basic shot of your arm cannon is so low power that there's no reason to pretty much ever use it unless you're just using it to open a door. And maybe that was their intention, but it also makes the charged up shot feel super satisfying. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I feel like that might be going too far. I'm not entirely sure on that one though, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. Regardless, I'm about to run out of battery on my camera, so I guess that's all the examples I'm going to give here. Hopefully this can sort of help you know some good examples and know some good techniques to be paying attention to when you're going into creating your game, whether it be an RPG or whether it be a platformer that has a charge system for the jumps you use. All of these things can serve to make the gameplay super interesting and give these moments of feeling like a superhero, which is a very specific example, but I think kind of encompasses the feeling that you get as a player when you're doing these sorts of things and using these sorts of abilities. But again, this is all my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to my channel, but if you completely disagree, well, I mean, still like the video if you want. I don't know. I don't know your life. But feel free to debate in the comments down below. I'm always open to discussion on these sorts of things because I am an amateur game designer, and I just talk about what I see in the games that I play and what I see in the creations that I make. So hopefully that is entertaining enough for you. But regardless, thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope this gave you some insight, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. But for right now, goodbye.